Our week in the King's Quarters rolls on as we shine the light on the swing of Arnold Palmer, the power, that high finish, and the School of Golf team shows you how to best shape it like the late, great AP. And with all eyes on the City Beautiful this week and everything it has to offer from views to golf venues, our go-to globetrotter of the game plans out your ultimate Orlando itinerary. Then a move back to Muirfield for the Open. A vote that fell short last spring is back on the ballot, and we bring you the breaking news that will happen this morning for golf's oldest major as Morning Drive on a Tuesday starts right now.
Good morning. It is March 14th and Tuesday of API week. We are back at Bay Hill for the second straight day of an event that has been highly anticipated since the passing of the King last September. We have so much to bring you from the Arnold Palmer Invitational today. Carl Robinson alongside Damon Hack and a pair of PGA Tour winners who both call Orlando home. Chris DeMarco and Robert Damron, who really isn't very far from his bed right now here at Bay Hill Club and Lodge. Did you guys catch the 1997 Arnold Palmer Invitational champion Phil Mickelson on Faraday last night? Part two of his exclusive sit-down. Chris, what was your biggest takeaway?
Mine was the analytical part of it, how he explained the temperature and the lie and the grain and the spin, just the way he approached every shot. Him and Bones talked about it and how precise he was with his yardages, almost down to the half yards. I thought that was pretty interesting.
And we thought Bryson DeChambeau was the mad scientist, but Phil Mickelson, maybe he's running close.
Absolutely. How about the 2006 U.S. Open at Winged Foot? That last 20 minutes was like a soap opera. You had Phil driving it off the tent. You had Johnny Miller in the booth saying that Ben Hogan is rolling over in his grave. You had the double bogey. Phil Mickelson saying afterwards, "I'm such an idiot." And here we are today, 11 years later, and he has 6 runner-up finishes in the U.S. Open.
Good sense of humor came through, that's for sure.
You know what jumped out to me was, and I probably am a little more sensitive to this, but did you hear who he said was his first call to him when he got in his first Augusta?
Arnold Palmer.
Arnold Palmer, of course. That's why he's such a loved figure. And but to go back and touch on what Chris said, this is getting the most press, I think, is the analytical, all the things he says he goes through before he hits a shot. Please, at home, don't try that. It'll slow you down. With Phil, he's telling you the truth, but it's also innate. It's something that's in there. It's just grained. If you go out and try that, everyone in the group with you and behind you is going to want to kill you.
Well, not only did he win this event before, he had a runner-up and a third-place finish too. So Big Phil has played well here at Bay Hill Club and Lodge, and the all-new season of Faraday continues next Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern with a 5-time PGA Tour winner in Patrick Reed. Well, 29 of the top 50, players were in the field this week, and many of them took to social media yesterday to express their sentiments on returning to Arnie's place. Martin Keimer is making his second start in this event, posted this photo on Instagram: "On my way to the Arnold Palmer Invitational to show respect and appreciation for Arnold Palmer and all that he's done for our sport." He is a legend indeed. Next, Morgan Hoffman, who finished 4th in this event 2 years ago, had a pretty cool touch. Check out these new weapons honoring Arnold Palmer, from Titleist, Vokey wedges. I haven't been this excited about new clubs in a while. Look, he's got ice and lemonade, the King, and from one aviation enthusiast to another, Morgan even flew himself to Bay Hill this week. Nice touch with the aeroplanes. And what about the man who will have to present the green jacket back in 3 weeks' time? Danny Willett tweeted, "An honor to have this on my bag this week. Hashtag a life well played." Just one of many players choosing to ditch their bag sponsor in place of Arnie's iconic umbrella this week. Well, let's hear from some of the 120-man field on what is a bittersweet week.
I think everyone's excited to be here and to represent Mr. Palmer, and like you said, the quote, "a life well played," and the guy nobody's lived a better life than that guy, and so I think everyone's here to celebrate him, and I'm glad to be playing here this week and be part of the field.
He was everything in golf. I mean, there's nothing that Arnie on and off the golf course didn't do for really us as players, as professional golfers.
It's a bit of a strange feeling, walking in the player dining area this morning, and you notice the table that you always used to see him sit and have his lunch and breakfast in the corner there by the putting green, and he's not there anymore. It was a bit of a goosebump feeling.
Well, this morning I flew up from Jupiter, and I had to, even though it's a really short flight, I said had to fly because Arnie would. and it's just an ode to him, and he flew everywhere, so Arnie would do it, so I feel like I can too.
But how do you quantify Mr. Palmer's impact? In 1955, the year he turned professional, the average winner's share, $4,400. Last year, $1.2 million. Mr. Palmer was a shining, transcendent star, Robert Dameron. What debt does the modern-day golfer owe Mr. Palmer?
Well, you mentioned the increase in purse size, which is absolutely a fact. What you don't know is a big-name player, let's take two guys that aren't here, Dustin Johnson and Jordan Spieth. They make way more off the course than on the course. Arnold Palmer and Mark McCormick were the pioneers of sports marketing. Mr. Palmer made it cool for companies to, put their logo on you. So it's far beyond golf. And not to mention, Chris, our retirement is so good, and it's because of him. He set it up after he played for the people that followed him. And where would PGA Tour champions be without Arnold Palmer? I
mean, look who he used to hang out with Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin and those guys. He ran the same circles as them. He was on the, Sportsman of the Year in 1961, I think it was. I mean, golfer. I mean, that's pretty amazing. And you see him and what he brought and his marketing abilities and everything. He really, with him and Mr. Player, when they brought it on TV and brought the threesome on TV, it was amazing, and Arnie led it all.
Do you think the modern player knows? I mean, he was global, he was international, he was a movie star in golf spikes.
You hope the modern player knows, but there's a generation coming through now that may not have known the Arnold Palmer that perhaps we know, or that perhaps Robert and Chris know, because it was before their time. And we all do our best to promote and publicize and show what a true icon he was in this sport, but we are going to get to a stage sooner rather than later where the young professionals start coming through who never had the chance to meet him. I feel we're kind of on the cusp of that situation. We did have young Matt Fitzpatrick in the studio the other day. He said he was lucky enough to meet him, and I think it will be interesting when we start to meet those pros that never did.
Do you think this legacy will continue? Do you think the players, as they get younger and younger, they're coming out earlier, a lot of them will not have met Mr. Palmer? How do you keep that memory alive?
I'd like to think so, but it just doesn't seem like they do have the appreciation, the younger guys today. We mentioned 29 of the top 50 in the field. If you got 29 out of 50 on a test, you would fail that test.
Right.
So it's, of course, thankfully, they did show up, but there's 21 that...
Could you see anyone in the top 50 today, now that Mr. Palmer is no longer with us, that emulates his attitude the best, that can try and continue that legacy down through the generations?
Ricky Fowler.
Who is in the field this week.
He gets it. His marketability is huge. Obviously, he's got a lot of game, not Arnold Palmer game, but he's got a lot of game, and he is always giving back, always smiling, always signing. I know I've actually spoke to Mr. Palmer about Ricky about a year ago, and he was very proud of him. He said the same thing.
That is interesting. Well, Ricky Fowler is part of the field here at the Arnold Palmer Invitational and surely would like to be a multi-major champion one day. It is time now to bring in our insider. Tim Rosefort is on the driving range, braving some slightly windy conditions. Good morning, Rosie.
Good morning, Cara. Your kind of weather. We're in the UK here, and I guess it's appropriate we got Matthew Fitzpatrick just being the first guy out here to hit balls on a morning like this.
I'm impressed. I hadn't even seen him yet. I know DeMarco's complaining about being cold. No, it's just a brisk Tuesday morning. This is your home away from home, Rosie. Whenever you come up to the Orlando studios, this is where you choose to stay. What does this week, the first Arnold Palmer Invitational without the King, mean to you?
Well, Cara, just where we're doing this broadcast this morning, we're so close from Arnold's spot on the driving range here on this right corner here. Nobody would ever hit a ball there other than the man himself. And I had a chance to hit a drive here in front of him a couple years ago. I was so nervous and filled with adrenaline. I'm surprised I didn't whiff it. It was kind of like an Arnold Palmer swing. The result wasn't, but the swing looked like it anyway. And I think that's what this week and today's all about, really. It's a week to walk around this property and reminisce and celebrate the life and connect with Arnold when he was here. Whether you're in the bay windows having a cocktail, if you're in the locker room and feeling the needles that Arnold used to give everybody, or up above, if you're a player and you're going to walk through there this week and get a chance to sign a pin flag, it all should come back to you. Not the fact that he's not here anymore, but more so the fact that he'll always be here.
Yeah, his spirit certainly remains. Well, we're going to get a chance to speak to a lot of the players today. We're in fact going to have the latest winner on the PGA Tour. Adam Hadwin is going to be on our set this morning. We know how patriotic the Canadians are. Rosie, how popular was Adam Hadwin's win back home in Canada?
I talked to his dad, Jerry, yesterday out in Abbotsville, trying to put together his golf clubhouse again, which burned to the ground. And you could burn that clubhouse to the ground, but you couldn't pour any water on the excitement that Canada felt last week. As Jerry said, you know, people up here love to see that maple leaf up there, and it's a country of grinders. And Adam, who grew up playing against Nick Taylor at Ledgeview, that club I just referenced, is going to go to the Masters for the first time, as is Mackenzie Hughes, and of course Mike Weir will be there for him as well. And talking to Mackenzie yesterday and also this morning in the locker room, he said all we need is one more to make it a Canadian foursome. This is something that was celebrated more than just in Abbotsville and over in Innisbrook, where he won for the first time to qualify for the Masters. It's celebrated from one end of Canada all the way to the other, Cara.
Yeah, Mike Weir is going to have some young proteges picking his brain. Now, what about another guy who we need to know for more than his long hairstyle? Tommy Fleetwood with a win in Abu Dhabi and a second-place finish to Dustin Johnson in Mexico. He is part of a new wave of golfers, Rosie, coming from Great Britain that are actually playing API this week. Matthew Fitzpatrick and Tyrrell Hatton in the field as well. What has led to Tommy's resurgence?
Well, first on the bigger picture on this car, I saw Fitzpatrick in the locker room this morning trying to put together this report, and asked him if he was in the Masters. He kind of smiled at me and said, yeah, he finished 7th last year. So there's one in, and a very capable player, of course, with Haddon as well, Tyrrell Hatton. But you think about Fleetwood's chances to qualify for the Masters. He's got to get in first, but he's looking good, 35th in the world. There's a cutoff point coming after the match play next week. So it looks like he's in. He's been close before, though. 14, he was actually there as a spectator. 15, got bumped from the match play into quarters by Danny Willett, who went on to win the Masters last year, of course. And he's kind of going retro, kind of like the hair. He's got his fiancée, Claire, who's his manager. He's got a very close friend of his, a guy that he looked up to when he was a kid growing up at his club. Ian Finnis is now on the bag. They're childhood friends. And then ultimately he's gone back to his original swing coach, Alan Thompson. He left Pete Cowan, and as you know, Cara, Pete makes major championship winners, and just didn't work for Fleetwood, though. But he's feeling at 26 years old that he's kind of one of the old guys, and I guess he is compared to Haddon and Fitzpatrick, but a lot of upside to this kid, and we saw that in Abu Dhabi, if you watch the telecast on Golf Channel, when he held off a field that included Dustin Johnson, Henrik Stenson, and also Martin Keimer, all major championship winners. Said a lot about his pedigree, and he's a colorful guy, a guy you really want to hang out with, and hopefully he has another good week here so that more of America and the golf fans over here and spectators can come to appreciate him for more than just that hair, which obviously I'm very jealous about. Back to you.
Well, we are going to get to hang out with him today. I'm going to be joining him live on the driving range in about an hour, so don't go anywhere if you're a Tommy Fleetwood fan. Rosie, thank you. We'll check in with you in about an hour's time as well.
Thanks, Car. You got it.
Well, last year here, it was Jason Day who defeated Kevin Chappell by 1 stroke to earn his 8th career PGA Tour win and his first in the state of Florida. The Australian became the first player since Fred Couples in 1992 to win the Arnold Palmer Invitational in wire-to-wire fashion, and he is the final champion to have had that special winning moment at Bay Hill's 18th green with Arnold. Well, Day is back to defend this week after withdrawing from the WGC Mexico Championship due to an inner ear infection. Guys, we've got to believe that he's feeling fully healthy again and going to be back to his best. We haven't seen an awful lot of him. He's had one good finish this season so far, this year, I should say, at Pebble Beach. Chris, what do you expect from the world number 2?
Probably a little bit of rust. You know, obviously not getting too many competitive rounds in there. I think that's exactly what he needs. You know, obviously coming back to a place he's won, very familiar with. Obviously, you know, great finish. You know, he's only played 4 times, so he needs to get the rust off. He needs to get healthy. I think that's the most important thing. You know, 2 inner ear infections, vertigo. We saw that at the Open at Chambers Bay. He doesn't need that anymore. So getting healthy and getting his mind right, I think, is the #1 thing, but I think health is there.
Trending, Robert, I'm sure, is everyone trying to the Masters. He's had a runner-up, a 3rd and a 10th. He's played well there before, but does he have the form he needs coming into it this year?
Not right now. Even like at Pebble, he was really showing spurts of playing well, and then he shot 41 on the front 9 on Saturday. He did end up finishing tied for 5th, but there's been a lot of bad mixed in with the good, and Chris said it, that's just rust. I don't think he's somehow lost his game. I think he'll be just fine, given that he's healthy going into Augusta.
It's interesting. I spoke to Jason last year at Hilton Head. He was adamant about maintaining and extending his lead as the #1 player in the world. And when you look in this short sample of his play this year, the double ear infection, the 1 top 5 finish, losing his #1 ranking, it has to be very bothersome and troublesome to him. He has the game, but we've seen with the vertigo and the back injuries and this latest illness that he's not very dependable right now to play a healthy slate of golf.
Yeah, he was so determined to keep the #1 ranking, yet Dustin Johnson seems to have walked in with ease, and he is the dominant player right now.
It also seemed to be a bit of a burden for Jason Day toward the end of his #1 reign. Well, no burden for us. It's a beautiful morning, a bit chilly here at Bay Hill Club and Lodge, day 2 of the Arnold Palmer Invitation. How about Saturday? It was balmy and beautiful for the unveiling of the Arnold Palmer statue by the first tee at Bay Hill. I'll tell you what, it was a reminder that his legacy will go on and on. Just ask fellow Pennsylvania native Rocco Mediate.
Oh, he's around. He's definitely around. He's everywhere. But yeah, you never think he's gonna be gone, ever. I met him when I was 19, and like I said, you just never felt like he was going anywhere. And he's what he did for us made all this possible.